Hi guys, it's Andy from Man City Fan TV and welcome to a bit of an unusual, it's not a podcast, it's a video cast tonight, and what we've done is invited some guests on, and we've got some of our usual contributors to the channel on tonight, but some you may not have seen before because you may have heard the voice, but we've actually got them on screen tonight, and a few apologies from a few people who said that they couldn't make it because they were working and time zones and things like that. So Carl just messaged me to say he just couldn't get out of work today. So anyway, we've got 5 people on plus me. So we've got Chris. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, thanks, Andy. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, buddy. We've also got Ryan.
Hello.
You might have heard Ryan on the podcast before.
Need to admit my laugh.
Hey, listen, it's gonna be we're gonna go with the flow tonight. Ryan, if you've not seen Ryan before, and you've probably read a lot about Ryan on our live, but Ryan looks after the Premier League predictions table on the Discord channel of Man City Fan TV. So bottom left, if that's what you're looking at, because we'll wait and see how this turns out. But we've got Aleks, Alexander Savic. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks for having me.
Well, listen, thank you for coming on. Bottom right for me, anyway, with the Oasis image behind him is Tom. You've seen Tom. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, thanks. How's everybody else?
Yeah, all very good, thank you. And then somewhere off screen, which will bring him in, is Mr. Weight Loss himself. It's Horsey. It's Martin is on, and you will see his slimmed down face at some point in tonight. But anyway, listen. This is going to be a video blog. We've got some questions to ask each other and things like that, talking about everything that's going on in the world, talking about football and all sorts of things. But it will be a bit of a casual one. It's not going to be as formatted as sort of the usual podcasts and things like that. So we're just going to go with the flow. And my first question is, I'm going to ask all of you, obviously in the current climate with everything that's going on, it's difficult for people, and I just want to know how you doing and how's it going for you at the moment? Is there anything in particular you want to say about the current climate and the current situation that we're going? So I'll hand over to my top left, and that is our wingman, which is Chris.
And it's I'm still going to work. Unfortunately, I'm classed as a key worker, so yeah, I've got to keep on going to work at the minute. And will be throughout, I'd imagine. So my family pretty much self-isolated. My eldest son's got respiratory problems anyway, so they've kind of been in the house for over a week now by them playing cards and, trying not to keep themselves bored, really. So, yeah, as much as for me, life's been fairly normal, but for them, it's not.
How's that going? I mean, because it must be, and I mean, we've got this obviously in the UK. You're in the UK. We've got potentially now with schools closing coming up. We've got kids that are going to be at home from all different ages. How's that going to be for you? They've already had a week of it.
Yeah, well, we took my kids out the end of last week actually, because of my eldest situation.
Yeah.
And to be fair, they've done all right. My youngest got a little bit upset yesterday. I think he's missing his mates, really.
Yeah,
it's going to be a difficult few months, but better be safe than sorry, mate. So yeah,
absolutely. Okay, well, we'll go to Ryan, who's on the right of my screen. Ryan, what about you? What are your thoughts at the moment? I know you mentioned earlier about your mate's pub. What are your thoughts as a younger person? We've got 3 younger persons on and 3 older persons on. Well, except for Martin, he's only 20.
Yeah, Martin's only 26.
Yeah, we'll bring him in a minute. What are your thoughts on the whole thing at the moment? How's it going for you?
Well, I'm not at work anymore. I would have been working on Sunday. It's Friday now. So I would have been working Sunday, but that's been cancelled. I was working last Sunday. So at the moment, I'm just kind of doing what I usually did, but obviously I haven't got work to go to at the minute, so I'm kind of more applying for work at the moment. So hopefully I can get something that'll be very busy, just to get in some money, really. But the mothers now are working from home because like most of her work's still there, but after her treatment last year, she's got like bad immune system now, so she's not allowed in work. And then my uncle's going into lambing season. My grandma's will have a bunch of health problems, but so she's not really getting anywhere other than into town for shopping, and that's it.
So it's business as usual for you personally. I mean, in respect of it's more affecting the family members than anything else.
Yeah, well, as I've been saying, I've been in self-isolation for 19 years, so
Well,
it's not going to affect me as much.
Well, we know that. It's 19 hours sleep a day for you, by all accounts. But anyway, I'll tell you what, I'll bring in the bottom left of the screen, and that's somebody who's overseas, and be interesting. Obviously, we'll bring in Tom and Martin in a minute, but I know what it's like overseas because I've only just returned from overseas trips in Eastern Europe and in the Middle East. So, Aleks, what's it like over there in Serbia at the moment? Is it having anywhere near the impact that you're seeing and what we're talking about on the live vlogs and things like that? Or
Yeah, it's possibly even more dramatic because our government has declared state of emergency. We also have a curfew here, so I'm not allowed to go outside right now. I would risk being arrested.
is that what they're saying? That if you're under almost house arrest, you've got to stay in your house and your homes.
Yes, and there's like a prohibited period between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. You're not allowed to go outside, and if you do, you'll get arrested. And we've had like over 100 cases where people were arrested for being outside, which is really dramatic.
Wow.
We've had only one dead person so far. So I think our government is overreacting, and I think that's something political. So let's not get too deep into that, but it's really weird. If you see infect people, which is not that serious compared to Italy, UK, and the rest of the European countries, but now we have the most brutal actions here going on. With yesterday, I signed my termination on my job, so yeah, I'm now looking for another job. Inner city transportation is completely shut down, but somehow some people are still hanging out, having drinks, walking, and basically having a nice time because the weather is nice. It's like 20 degrees here. Schools are mostly shut down, so it's kind of a mess. But
Yeah.
we're going through it.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be a little bit like that all over the world, I'm guessing, and you'll have different stories from different countries, their experiences of what's happened. I'm sure at the moment there's lots of moaning and groaning and whining and everything else in the UK. I guess if you're living in Italy and Spain and other countries, you might be thankful that you're still alive, if I'm honest with you. So I think we just all got to get through it. But it's interesting to get a different spin on what other countries that we don't hear a great deal about, like Serbia. It shows you that, at the end of the day, at the moment, we're still free to go and do and move around to a certain degree, even though it's only recommendations, yet you're in lockdown and you're on curfew over there. So wishing you all the very best, Aleks. Tom, what about you, buddy?
Well, as the younger person of the group, I got the news on Wednesday night that I won't be doing my GCSEs this year. So all the hard work that I've been putting in the past few months has gone to waste, really. So we finished school yesterday. My school finished yesterday. It was a bit of a weird moment because you're finishing so soon after preparing. Other than that, my dad's working at home now. His company said just stay at home and do what you can at home. My mum's still going out. My sister's finished school now as well. So yeah, it's just a case of just self-isolating, and then we'll see what the government say about the GCSEs in the upcoming months.
Yeah, it is a nightmare, mate. And that I do understand. Obviously, with the exams and things, it's stressful enough at the time after all the work you put in and things like that. I know, like I said, my lads have been there with GCSEs anyway, but my older lad is in his final year of teaching, and he don't know what's going to happen now, thinking he was going to be in a teaching job in a few months' time. Now he's not sure what's going to happen next. So, yeah, terrible. So it just shows you the different dynamics, how it affecting different people and different generations, and how it's affecting everyone's lives at all different parts, whether it be from people who've got poorly people at home to overseas having, curfews, to you worrying about your GCSEs and what's going to happen with your future. Bringing in Martin at the moment. Martin, what about you, buddy?
It's been an interesting week, as you can probably imagine. Like Chris, key worker, work within education. It's been a weird week. Today was very weird. Seeing the children leave, not knowing when they're coming back, the confusion on the faces, confusion on our faces because they're asking us questions we can't give answers to.
That must be really hard. That must be really hard in working in a school environment.
It's been a challenging week, but you realise what you mean to the children and what the children mean to you and things like this, because it's not necessarily, it's like today when they left, you could just see the faces, you could see their eyes. We were saying bye to each other, and it was heartbreaking in a way, and it was very emotional because you can't give them answers. Parents ask you questions, you can't give them the answers that they want. But we will be there Monday, back in, away we go, and it's just stay strong and see what happens now. My partner's a key worker as well, so just got to batten down the hatches, stay together, stay strong. We're a nation that likes to come together when it matters, and we need to do it.
Well, listen, a big shout out from everyone here at Man City Fan TV for all the people who are key workers, people who have to go into work. Chris, I know your job and things like that. So people have to go in because it keeps the country running, and there are things that we have to do. So a massive respect to all those who have to do it at a time when, let's face it, there might have been holidays booked in months and months and months to come and think, could actually have a few weeks off here, and when I'm knackered and not been off for ages, and yet they're still carrying on. So big respect to everybody who has to go in and keep the country running. At the end of the day, that's what we've got to do. But anyway, we're going to move on. We're going to move on to football, and the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to do a bit of a rotational thing here with you all and ask you, what are your thoughts on football being cancelled when you heard the news? And currently, as we stand at the moment, we're talking about the 30th of April. Originally, it was the 3rd or 4th, the weekend of the 3rd or 4th. But now the sensible thing has happened, in my opinion, whereby they've actually delayed it and they're not making any stupid comments about when it could resume. But I'm going to come to you first, Chris. What are your thoughts on football being cancelled in general with regards to the fact of, to expand on that, so that you're thinking, well, what do you want to know? I'm thinking more about, should it be played behind closed doors? Should they have cancelled it altogether? Should they just cancel everything? As it stands at the moment, not about, I'll come back to you and ask you a question about where we think football should go in the future. I'm talking about right now, from the information that we know.
I think on a personal level, when I was leaving work today, lad said to me, he's a United fan. He said, it's weird, isn't it, going off and no football this weekend again, and I said, yeah, it really is. It's so strange. As to the cancellation, this is really difficult, because when I had a look, and when they null and voided the season when World War II broke out, but that was, I think, September, so you kind of wait, not really into the season, really.
Yeah.
If I was a Liverpool fan, and how long they've waited, like we waited for all that time for some success, you would be absolutely gutted if they null and voided this season, And I know as City fans, we can take the mick out of them, and we will do, because that's what we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they really do deserve to win the title this year, So the whole sort of sticking dates on when they're going to resume, just forget about it. You know, let's wait until we're on the downslide or well down the downslide, and then decide what we're going to do. Null and void in the season seems like the most sensible thing to do in terms of, because then you've got players' contracts and stuff like that to deal with. But I really think, you know, the general feeling when I've listened to the radios is let's get the season finished, and if that means we resume even as late as September and October, you know, maybe that is really the right thing to do. And I don't believe that we should play in empty stadiums. It's a spectator sport. In terms of not so much for us, because I think, you know, let's face it, Liverpool have won the league, but for teams who were down at the other end of the table and the relegation, and not having a crowd there, and not having a home game, you know, that's quite a big deal, really. You know, sometimes the fans are the 12th man, and you know, for teams who possibly could be losing a lot of money by getting relegated, I don't think it's right that they're played behind closed doors. That's my feelings, Andy.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring in Ryan. I'm going to move Chris out over there. He's had his question. So, Ryan, what were your thoughts? My question was, what were your thoughts when you heard football was being cancelled, and what are your thoughts on where we're at currently? Not about where we should go in the future and things. We're just talking about the football and what we've currently heard, which was delayed till the 3rd or 4th. Then it's delayed now to the 30th.
Well, we all saw it coming. People had been making jokes about it on Twitter for a couple of weeks at that point, saying that Liverpool weren't going to win the league because of what was happening, and everyone making jokes about it. So everyone could really see that it would quickly be put behind closed doors, and we didn't really get to that point in England, really, with behind closed doors. That was more across Europe, where they did that and then had to fully cancel. But you saw it was coming, and the games were all going to get cancelled. I think it was Italy that announced it first. I think they'd announced it on a Monday night when I think United might have been playing. There was a Premier League game happening, and Italy had announced that they were like cancelling all sporting events till the 4th. So you knew once that happened that all the other leagues would then follow suit. So it was us and Germany that were the last to do so, like the main leagues. And then they've since delayed, said that it won't continue for a bit longer, which makes sense. It was probably always going to happen, as the date was. You could see from how it had gone in China that we weren't going to be restarting football on the 4th, and we probably won't be restarting football at the next date that they have set. So I'm assuming it'll just keep getting pushed back, really. But rather than setting a date, I'd more just I wouldn't be specifically saying a date. I would just be saying that we'll get back to the football as soon as we can.
Yeah, I mean, I'd put out. You've seen it on the live vlogs that I've been doing. One person who I think most football fans follow, if you want some real, not about facts and transfers and things, but more about opinion, is Martin Samuel of the Daily Mail, and I've been doing some vlogs and putting some of his articles. And I think one that I did 2 days ago, and he was talking in that particular article about why are we setting dates? Why are UEFA setting dates? Why they're saying, Euro 2020 is still going to go ahead, and this, that, and the other. And what we should be doing is just say there'll be another review in 3 weeks. There'll be another review in 4 weeks. We'll see where it goes then. Then, until we get a handle on this, Alex, what were your thoughts being overseas, follower of Man City, and hearing about these cancellations and how it stands at the moment? What were your initial thoughts on that?
No surprise whatsoever. I'm not going to complain because, you expect to see football every Saturday or every Sunday. That's cool, but this is a way more important issue. I also think that the FA's reaction was a bit late. so it could pull some consequences later. I have a tiny bit of optimism, and I think this might sound controversial, but I think that football will be back in May, even behind closed doors, because obviously I think every league wants to make revenue as soon as possible. That's one thing, and the other thing, not related to football, I've heard from some people that we're about to witness the peak period of the coronavirus, and it should be settled down in a month or so. So I'm actually hoping that is true, but if not, I'm fine with postponing it as long as it's the common benefit. I don't even care about Liverpool and their title anymore. This is a way more important situation. So yeah, I'm fine with it.
Okay, thank you. You made actually some. I'll move Chris over here and I'll put you up there. But I mean, you made some interesting points there with regards to you think it could be May. I'm actually in that. I'm in that camp thinking April may be a time when the players might be able to train behind closed doors as long as it's safe. And then potentially, I do think, and I tend to agree with you, that they will try and push to get these games played behind closed doors as quickly as possible. But that's just my opinion, because I know what the articles I've read and articles I've posted on the blogs about, how much money is involved and how much money will have to be paid back by the Premier League to the TV companies for everything that's been paid for already. So it's going to be interesting. Tom?
Well, I personally thought, it's up to opinions in that, but I personally thought the only reason why football was stopped at that point was the news that Arteta got the coronavirus on the Friday night.
What was the vlog I did 2 days before that? Do you remember the vlog? Do you remember the vlog I did saying, "Why is this Man City game versus Arsenal being called off?" It doesn't make any sense whatsoever when there's absolutely no evidence, because there was the talk of, oh well, it's because a few players had been in contact with. Well, none of those players played on the Saturday against West Ham.
Exactly.
And they were still in the squad, so it couldn't have been any of them. And the others were supposedly being in isolation. So why was the City game called off? And then 2 days later, we hear Mikel Arteta, like you've just said. So do you think that actually was the thing that drove the whole thing?
Yeah, I really do, because the Premier League seemed like they were still going to carry on that week. Those week games, I think we had Burnley that weekend. It looked like that was going to be on, and then the Arteta and then Hudson-Odoi got said that he had coronavirus, and it just seemed like the Premier League had no other option other than to postpone it. They obviously did it to the 3rd of April, but now they've done it to the 30th. And like you guys have said, I think it probably will be back in May, but I think it just needs to take its time, and if it's not safe for him to come back out, they just need to wait until it's all safe, so then we don't have another restart of it all starting again. So then as soon as we start football again, we can all 100% know that it's all safe for us to go and watch, or even behind closed doors, and we know that the players will be safe.
And that's an important point you make there. It's a fact of, we're all sort of going, oh, we're stir crazy, we want football, but we've got to think about the players, their families, their relatives, their children, their elderly parents, their elderly, whatever, and the whole fact of that. So it's got to be a priority for them as well, because they're, as much as though we discount the 200 grand a week or whatever they're making, they are human beings at the end of the day, and they can still pass on the virus like we can, earning zero a week at the moment. But Martin, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to go down the moral route, like Chris. I have an issue right now with football being even talked about, of having dates and everything right now, and that's maybe because it's everything I've heard this week and job that I'm in and everything else. Maybe I'm seeing it from a different side, but like the others, Liverpool deserve to win the title. Totally hands down on that. But to even talk about football right now in April, in any point in time in April, I have a real moral issue with that right now. When in the world, around the world, we've got a little bit of a crisis on our hands, mate, and football should go to the back burner. As much as we love it and everything else, and like I said, I'm sat here probably like Gary, Tom, and everyone else.
Gary,
Tom, everyone else.
Brian, Dave,
Doper, Sneezy, and everyone else. I'm sat there paying me whacking my season ticket, and I couldn't give a monkeys anymore whether I'm paying it or not. It's just football's gone to the back of my mind. Right now, it's about putting smiles on people's faces, and I know football does that, but there's people about to lose jobs. People are about to lose businesses. People are about to lose homes over their heads. I know the government are saying they're going to help, and I don't want to turn this into, Sunday political show, but people are about to lose their livelihoods, and the FA are giving us 30th of April, when tonight pubs, clubs, leisure centres, and everything have been told to close, and we're saying in a month's time football's going to restart.
Well, I mean, I'll jump in there on the defence of the Premier League and the FA. They haven't said that football's going to resume on the 30th. They said the next information will be on the 30th of April, which I think is a prudent move, and they should be doing it month by month, and we'll see what happens.
I just think they should suspend it indefinitely right now and come back to it when we've got this peak issue out of the way.
Yeah,
that's just my.
Which my argument might be back to that is the fact that I think that's what they're doing, but they're doing I think the 30th of April is more of a public thing, so that they can give a formal date where they can give information to. I don't know. What does everyone else think? Shout out. I mean, can you honestly see football being played in May? Behind closed doors, or do you think May is an absolute nothing is going to happen in May? I'll go, Ryan, yes or no? Will football be played at all behind closed doors, or well, I don't think it's going to. I'll be honest, it's not going to be played with fans in the stadium. Do you think football is going to be played behind closed doors in May? Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes,
May or June.
May or June. Okay, Chris.
I'm not here to scaremonger or say that I know what's going on.
No.
But we are on the foothills of this peak, and as a key worker and seeing where we are, what you think we might have in place isn't, and although they are taking actions where I work, I would say for 2 weeks we've been asking to be at that point from there. So I can't really go into it much more than that.
No.
And certainly not scaremonger, but it's really imperative that as younger, I mean, I'm not young, I'm nearly 50, but we're not in that danger zone. But as young people, the reason that we are isolating is to protect the vulnerable people, and we need to make sure that we do as we're told, and isolate as much as possible, stop all this ridiculous panic buying, and allow people who are more vulnerable to go and get their shopping, or and just stay away from them. Do you know what I mean? And support them as much as you can. I don't see football returning for quite some time. That's my personal opinion.
Okay.
And I don't think, behind closed doors, we're already at a point now where pre-season would be, in this, we're getting to a length of time where players aren't going to be at peak fitness, and then asking them to play 2 or 3 games a week. No, mate. They're not at that level, and how is that fair on promotion relegation situations? I don't think it's fair.
I mean, listen, I am absolutely, and I didn't want to sound like I'm asking about the May thing. My point of view is why I'm thinking they will try wherever possible. Now, for me, there should be absolutely no risk to footballers, footballing staff, and remember, we're not just talking about footballers, we're talking about referees, we're talking about assistants, we're talking about coaching staff, we're talking about managers, we're talking about people who have to man the stadium just to do general stuff, who have to be there for the sake of journalists and TV camera crews and things like that. I don't want to risk anybody like that. However, when you hear that there could be a £750 million bill that could be that the teams may have to foot, then the Premier League may have to foot towards the TV companies and things like that. It does make you wonder sometimes whether we know what it's like. I mean, you know, you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist behind these things. Is you know that if we go from the very top down and say, well, hold on a minute, we've given you £1.5 billion as the Premier League, you know, to screen all your channels, your football matches, and you owe us this money back. You've already had it, and you've already signed the contract, and suddenly the clubs are now put under pressure from the FA, the Premier League potentially, and then the clubs then go to the players going, come on, you've been in isolation for 2-3 weeks. I mean, Jesus, we can get you all in a room, a hotel, a training academy, and you can stay there for a week, and then we all know that you're absolutely safe, and we can bus you to a stadium, and the other team's doing the same thing, and all the staff who are going to work that game, which is not going to cost them that much money to put them in isolation for a week, and go, everyone is clear, we can test you right before it, and you can play it behind closed doors, so it's streamed live across the world. Just let's face it, you're getting 200 grand a week from us, that we're getting millions from the, you know, Premier League and the TV company. Do you see where I'm going with this? I mean, it's like pressure builds on these things. I'm not in an ideal world. We'd all like to think that everyone would do the right thing for every single time and go, well, it's just finished. That's it. End of story. But when money starts coming into things, decisions get made at high levels, as we know from experience over years. When money's involved in things, decisions get made that are not always just or the right decision to be made at the right time for the safety of anybody, never mind footballers. So that was my point with the question. It wasn't. I mean, I don't care whenever it starts, as long as everybody is safe. But I'll come to Alex. Alex, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to agree with Ryan. Possibly late May. Again, it's not because I'm desperate, but, you know, for one, money. That's the obvious reason.
Sorry, you just
also, you know, I'm not after the coronavirus and the
Alex, sorry, you're just breaking up there, mate. Can you stay still when you're talking, mate?
You hear me now?
Yeah. If you just stay still when you're talking.
Okay. Yeah. So the number one reason, obviously, it's money, and the second reason, since I'm not an expert when it comes to the coronavirus, but I've listened to some people who have a little bit more knowledge when it comes to this, and I don't really expect this to escalate this whole issue and the number of the infected people. So I'm gonna go with late May, possibly behind closed doors.
Okay, Martin, did I ask you? I can't remember whether I did now because it's no. All right, go on quickly then. What do you think? Oh, we're not talking about political thing here. We're not talking. It's a simple football question.
Honestly, I think we won't start this season again. I think it'll be null and voided.
I never said the question wasn't. Yeah, no. We're not talking about what do we think is going to happen in the future.
That's a different question, Martin.
Yeah, it's a different question.
Start again. September, October time.
That's the next question, right? We'll come to you, Martin. Right, we'll ask the third. We'll ask the third question to Martin. What do you think should happen next for football?
What is it now, right? Okay, I'm lost now.
No, what should happen next? So what you were answering?
What you were just saying there. What should happen next for football?
I think we should null and void it, and we'll start again where we're at.
So you think you should null and void this season? Really?
Yeah.
We're gonna
think of all the Aguero records you've just lost there, Martin.
I understand that. But like Chris, it's to me, this isn't going to finish anytime soon.
Okay, so if we null and void this season, that means that Liverpool don't win the Premier League after 30 years. That means, does that mean to say that City can't potentially win the Champions League this year? Does that mean does that mean say that our FA Cup and Community Shield, our League Cup win are 3 on the run, going to 4, is null and void? Is that null and void for everything? Because if you null and void the season now, means Community Shield, League Cup, that goes as well.
Yeah, everything. Start again.
Right, I'm going to phase you out and bring Tom in on this one. Tom, what are your thoughts on that question?
Right, so this is my opinion. Everybody's opinion is different, but until bars, pubs, clubs, restaurants, gyms, facilities such as that open to the public again, I don't think football should start. So until all those places are back open, free for the public to use, I don't think it's right that, like we said, the footballers are exactly the same as us. They have families, they have friends, they have elders. I don't think it's right for anybody to go back and play a sport unless the public are allowed to go out and venture as normal again.
Wow, that's a pretty strong statement, Tom, because what you're saying now is until the population is, whenever that's going to be, back into some realms of normality, no football at all, no sport, because not just football, but we might be talking about rugby and any other population sport where people could be going watching it. That nothing should start again at all.
No, nothing. I don't think if it's not safe for somebody to go and have a meal out, it's not safe enough to have, I don't know, 100 people at a football ground, even if it is behind closed doors.
Bloody hell! I tell you what, Tom, that's that's absolutely on point statement. Not something I even thought about, but after today's announcement by the government that closing all cafes and sports theatres and any bars, pubs, clubs, whatever, I think you've actually made a really good point there. Is the fact if we can't congregate in a pub, even 2 meters apart, why should anybody be in a football stadium whatsoever? Wow. Right. Okay. That's for me personally. That's really thrown the cat amongst the pigeons in my thinking, because it wasn't something I even thought about after today's statement. But all right, Ryan.
Well, I think it all just depends where the virus goes from here. At the moment, what I see a return probably early July or late May. I'm trying to work out the order of the months there.
So on that point there, which is really interesting. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to say that I know anyone knows any different, but you're sort of saying July could be. How can we possibly put a date on this when the government are not putting a date on? What Tom's just said is, when will a cafe be able to reopen? When will a pub be able to reopen? When will a theatre or a gym or whatever? I mean, is that, you just said July, but that's
I meant June.
Or June. June. But again, that's like, it's like this is the conundrum we face, is that we don't know if they don't know, because if they knew, they'd be saying, don't worry, it's going to reopen again in June. Where is this going?
Well, I'm thinking apparently with the delay of the Euros idea of it being in all these countries was a terrible idea to begin with, but
I agree.
Apparently UEFA are trying to get money off pretty much every club for them to delay it. Apparently that's what's happened. And my thinking is they're delaying it by a year to leave this summer free for all football to finish, to get all the games played in what would be the summer off, and hopefully leave 1 or 2 weeks break before a new season starts, or maybe just delay a new season a little bit. I don't know. That's my thinking of what that was.
The problem being with that is they have no choice. Seferin has absolutely no choice because there will not be a tournament in this summer. End of story. It is impossible to arrange now, 3 months, 4 months' time, impossible to make a decision to say Euro 2020 is going ahead in the summer. Seferin has absolutely no choice but to cancel it this summer. No choice whatsoever, because they cancelled, don't forget, 3 weeks ago, they cancelled all of their top executive hotels in Copenhagen. They cancelled them three weeks ago. So 3 weeks ago, clearly, UEFA knew that they were not going to be playing this tournament this summer. Otherwise, they wouldn't have cancelled all of those hotels, which were absolutely paramount for all their guests and VIPs and everything to be staying in Copenhagen. So they have no choice in the matter but to cancel it. There is nothing they can do about it with regards to Euro 2020. And anything bloody UEFA say, I don't take with a pinch of salt anyway. But you make another good point. Chris?
I've got to be really careful at what I say because I could go on a rant.
Yeah, we're not making this political.
Yeah,
it's not political. We're keeping it to football, but we're talking about,
you got to believe. Sorry, Andy, but you've got to believe when this is all done and dusted, we will be living in a different country to what we have been used to all our lives, right? Yeah. The massive financial issues for the country. We've gone through 10 years of austerity. What we might see after might be even harder. Football doesn't matter. Any sport does not matter. People's lives are what matter. The way they are able to live their lives after, that they're able to eat, have a house, they are the important things. Don't underestimate this virus. Do not underestimate it. I saw a guy from the Far East say that fairly recently. Once China, I know, they got some new cases, but you said do not underestimate it, and really we shouldn't. We live in a much freer society than China, and they were able to install much more draconian rules than we would ever be used to because we don't live in the same environment. We're gonna, as far as I'm concerned, Martin Samuel hit this bang on the head. It doesn't matter when football starts again or what we do. You're absolutely right about the money. And as City fans, we don't have to worry about that. But try be a Macclesfield Town fan, a Port Vale fan. Where are those clubs going to be when the coronavirus has disappeared? Are they even going to exist? And it really is important for the FA and whoever else in whatever football authorities to back down from this ridiculous, City the evil. We could do a lot of good if we're allowed to save a lot of clubs. And and fans supporting teams they've supported their whole lives. I don't care when the season restarts again. I don't really care if it's null and voided. I just want I want people to be allowed to be safe as possible. And when it all done and dusted, that we'll see more community within football and stop this tribal. It's always going to be tribal, but let's not. You've seen it on Twitter. We've all seen it on social media. This hate that's thrown at clubs and fans. It's completely unnecessary. Say when this gone, we'll see a different country, and it could even be for the better. But it's going to be difficult times. I honestly, mate, I couldn't give a stuff when it starts again.
Fair play to you, mate. It's interesting because without going, I'll come to you, Martin, now as a quick comment, and I've put Aleks up in the top corner, but when we know that there's the Premier League, the EFL, and others are going to bail out clubs, how to what tune, and and I do feel sorry because the likes of the FA and the Premier League and the EFL and everyone else are going to be looking this from afar, going, well, if we don't know, and the general public and the government don't know when this is going to resume, how much money do we have to put into bailout all of these clubs, etc., etc.? Now, we know what happened when Bury was going under. And we had all the opposition clubs that hate Man City, the Liverpools, the Uniteds, all the other Twitterati going, Jesus Christ, you lot have got that much money. Why can't you bail them out? Well, we know the reason we couldn't bail them out, because it was against FA Premier League rules. We couldn't do. I'm sure Sheikh Mansour would quite easily go, well, how much do you need? Well, 5 million for the next 2 years. There you go. No problem whatsoever. But he couldn't do that because it was against rules, set rules that are in place for owners of clubs. They couldn't invest in another club within the same country's league. And yet, we potentially could be facing that, like Chris said, in the coming months, 6 months. How many of these lower league teams, like Macclesfield, you mentioned Macclesfield, and there are 20, 30, 40 others. I heard something today driving up to Manchester, and I heard somebody saying, this is not just about lower league teams. There are championship teams at the moment that are right on the border of no cash flow, no capital, not enough capital to see us through for the next 2-3 months. Yet, we could have. Well, there might be.
If you remember the conversation we had with the Villa fans at Wembley.
Yeah. I mean, quite easily. But we have got, and this is what makes me laugh about the whole FFP thing, is we've got an owner, and I'm sure there are plenty of other owners like Abramovich and like J.W. Henry and others at Liverpool who are billionaires, could quite easily, in no problem whatsoever, make sure that all of those teams survive. And if it came to push versus shove them out of the league, I'm sure they would help them. But the problem being then is, hold on a minute, is there not a bit of hypocrisy if they ever came to that? Because we're trying to invest in Manchester City as an owner. An owner's trying to invest in. Yet when it comes to helping other clubs, well, why would you ever ask for help from somebody who can't invest in his own club, but you'd want to bail out other lower league teams? And this is the whole conundrum of FFP. So, Martin, FFP, after what's going to happen, and this is a different question that I'd send you all, after what's going to happen in the coming months, if Chris is right and says things are going to change not only globally, not only in everyday life, but football is potentially going to change, because if life changed, then football changes. Is FFP going to be null and void? And is it even going to go to CAS and everything else? Or are they going to look at this and go, we could have done with a bit of Sheikh Mansour's money to save those 10 clubs that have just gone out of business in the next 6 months if football's not going to start until 2021?
FFP in regards, I think FFP is wrong anyway, and I do think it will go. I think this should put it all into perspective, really. There's a club very close to me, Oldham Athletic, who are on the brink. They're on the brink now. This is even before they stopped playing football. They were on the brink beforehand. We're talking about a club who was in the Premier League, who are going. Everton have spent a lot of money, haven't got the cash flow behind it, as we know what Cal said and other people. Villa. You know, I did a vlog tonight that said, our case is now frozen. There's no case going forward. Everything has been stopped, done. And we need to, like you say, make people realise Sheikh Mansour is not a monster. Man City are not the Antichrist. We are not some sort... I mean, me and Chris saw it at Leicester. You should have seen it. You thought we had 3 heads and 16 legs the way we were looked at and treated. It's a sport, and all he was doing, all Sheikh Mansour's doing, is helping the community, helping people with jobs. And I'll tell you what, we need more people like Sheikh Mansour right now. Right now, we need it to come.
All right, Chris wants to come in on that.
And also, Leicester fans, right, have had the same thing. I'm not going to even try to say the owner's the owner died's name, but the money he put in at Leicester into the community, it might not be on the same financial scale as Sheikh Mansour's done for Manchester, but he put lots and lots of money into Leicester, into the hospitals and local area. Leicester fans shouldn't be there, in my opinion. They were really quite anti what City are, without even knowing the facts, because the facts of what Sheikh Mansour has done for Manchester never gets reported anyway. But Sheikh Mansour has done exactly the same as their owner has in Leicester.
Good point. Tom?
Well,
do you know the question, or you just want to crack on with it?
well,
The question was about 20 minutes ago.
which one do you want me to answer?
I don't know. Answer whatever you like, mate.
Who's your name, Gary?
We're gonna go, Gary, free for all.
Yes.
Say whatever you want to say.
Okay, right. So
Gary,
I'm going to talk about the fact that the Euros is going ahead next year, if that's all right. That question.
All right, go on.
Right. So the fact that the UEFA, or like Ryan said, that they're asking for money from clubs to like invest in the cup next year, I think is completely wrong. I think if UEFA had a heart, if they all had a heart, they'd look at it and say, you know what, let's scrap it. We've got a bigger problem on our hands. Let the clubs invest in the communities, invest in the smaller clubs, and help the government, the communities, and everything to get through this tough time, because we've never had, like Boris said tonight, we've never had such a bad thing in this country for years now. I think the money needs to be put aside, help everybody, and I think a stupid. Hey, well, we got a Real Madrid fan now.
What's that?
I was too hot. I was too
Oh,
hot.
God. Oh, no.
I was too hot.
Let me bring him in over here. What are you doing?
Tonight,
too hot.
Matthew, I'm going to be a complete anyway.
Oh
Really?
my God!
This was a plan.
How dare you come on a Man City when we were about to play Madrid, and you're coming on with that?
Matt,
I think he's got a red
I should
vest
have gone
on.
and I should have
I
gone
know.
and got my Chelsea kit.
That's even worse.
Oh, hey, listen.
That's
You
what
know,
all came from there anyway.
You know when they call us plastics.
I'm just imagining the comments under this later on.
I'm gonna
I
have
don't
to
even-
I'm
I
gonna
don't
have to
even
edit this.
like it.
I'm gonna have to edit this bit out because he can't.
I don't even like Real Madrid.
Chris, go get your Aston Villa kit.
He's got a red vest on for that.
When I saw Fly Emirates, I thought you were gonna pull PSG, and that would make more sense.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. I was
I
gonna
don't
say.
care enough about French football. I at least like a team in Spain.
Right. Okay. Well, listen, Tom. I don't know. We'll leave. Ryan's on a different planet to everyone else.
I've thrown a
Me-
curveball.
Yeah. Alex,
Yes.
over in Serbia, are you bothered if 2020 the Euros went ahead sometime this year or next year or any time? Does it mean a lot to somebody overseas? Because I mean, my opinion is, and I'll be honest with you, and I don't know what everyone else can chip in and say what their things. I really don't care one way or the other about international football. It's not something I'm interested in whatsoever. But how do you feel about it being in Serbia?
To be honest, I'm not sure that I'm even gonna watch the Euros. Probably, in a pub, having a drink, talking about something completely different than with my other eye watching the game in the Euros. So I think most people in Serbia do rate the Euros. I don't know why, because our men's team is horrendous. But somehow it's still popular. I don't really care, and I'm not really a representative example because most people don't really watch English football the same way as I do.
Yeah.
So that's pretty different. I'm not really bothered about the Euros. So whenever they play them, it's completely the same with me.
It's obviously because Serbia as a team, as a nation, and everything is much smaller on scale. My next question would be to you. Let's put international football in 2020 or 2021 or whenever it's going to be played out of the question. How do people in Serbia view the Champions League? Is it as big as the Premier League, or is the Premier League bigger than the Champions League? I don't know. And my next question to you would be, what's the dynamic of the Serbian population and friends and things like that you know? who do they support? Because obviously it's going to be more United and Liverpool. United, I'm assuming if it's the same as the rest of the world, you're going to get more Liverpool, United, maybe Chelsea, Arsenal than City. What's the dynamic in Serbia when it comes to supporting not only Premier League teams, but how do they view the Champions League over the Premier League?
To answer your first question regarding the Champions League, it's the absolute number one. If you take, let's say, 10 people and ask them what's more important, the Prem or the Champions League, you would probably get 9 out of 10 saying the Champions League, with me being the one saying the Premier League.
Yeah, of course.
Possibly because one of the most popular and probably the most successful football team in Serbian history and also Yugoslavian history as well, Red Star.
Yeah.
You know, they played Tottenham this year and Liverpool last year. They won the Champions League in 1991, and that's probably the year when it started to be, that big.
Yeah.
So that's the answer for the Champions League. When it comes to supporting English clubs, well, I wouldn't really call it a support, a true, fandom, because whenever United start losing, they are the first ones to call Ole to be sacked. Also, I've seen some Klopp out when they lost. I think it was last year or maybe this year when they lost to, who did it lose to? Was it Norwich?
This year. This year. Watford.
Yes, exactly. Thanks for that. So
that's all right. There were plenty of their own fan base who claimed to live in Liverpool who were calling for that as well. So don't worry.
I'm not going to use the cliche word plastic, but I'm going to say they are kind of fake. Man City is certainly one of the most hated teams over here. Alongside, well, this is probably going to come across as a surprise, Tottenham Hotspur. They're also very hated here. I don't know why.
Really?
I absolutely have no idea why. But, Liverpool, United, Arsenal, and Chelsea, the top 4, always have been, always will be. Man City, well, yesterday I saw a man driving a car with a Man City tracksuit, and I kind of felt warm around my heart. But yeah.
So in Serbia, City hated. They don't like City.
I would even dare to say hated because it's a very strong emotion. Well,
listen. Yeah. That shows you the type of fan you are, mate. You're absolutely on the ball. So you're following the right team. You're not a lemming. You're not a sheep. You're following the right team, buddy.
You know what's interesting? Obviously last year Liverpool played Red Star Belgrade, and I know some Liverpool fans who live in Serbia, obviously, and I've asked all of them, "Have you been to the game?" And you can guess the answer. So no, none of them would do this. None of them would travel on a Wednesday night on a cold winter to see their team. So that's your answer.
There you go. Yeah, everyone, let's give the Serbian
freezing cold, man. Thanks. I've also got some stickers here that I bought from. I think it was the Facebook page. City on Tour. Have you heard of those guys? Yeah, I have those Oasis font,
Yeah.
I can see Martin is laughing.
He's obsessed with Oasis, Alex. If you don't know, he's probably looking at that picture behind you, Tom, going, "Can you send that to me?"
There it is.
Oh, there you go. Oh, the City.
That's the font.
That's Martin. That's Martin. City. Right, well, I'm going to bring Chris back in. I've got Tom, got Martin. Right, Martin.
Talk about abusive.
I know. Listen, Martin.
I don't know where we're up to anymore.
Well, I've lost
I don't
track
know.
as well.
We just kind of skipped question 3 and moved to question 4 because you
We
had no
did.
idea what Andy was asking you.
I know, so we move things around. What I'm gonna
back to wearing a Real Madrid t-shirt. I think that was the biggest distraction.
That was the biggest distraction. What was the biggest distraction for me was him doing this instead of doing a proper clap. He was doing this. What's that all about? It must be a Carlisle thing. He might not have sanitised his hands properly. Who knows?